Why so many hat and trench coat heroes? Ace Harlem is why. 1947, Harlem. Jim Crow could fly north as surely as he could fly south. All the while, Harlemites were haunted by entities straight out of pulp magazines. Neither papers nor police lent an ear to such tales. Fortunately, Ace Harlem was always on the case. But who was this curiously named hero? Urban legends claim that he was a Philadelphia reporter named Orrin C. Evans. How? Well, an uncanny resemblance, that's how. Question: how can one man be in two places at the same time? 1958. Colourful paranoia swept America. The Red Scare, the Black Menace, the Lavender Scare, and the Yellow Peril. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover assigned Jewish agents to infiltrate Hollywood, black agents to infiltrate the NAACP, handsome agents to loiter at gay bars. And he assigned Agent Jimmy Woo to stake out San Francisco's Chinatown. One night, Woo overheard airmen whisper of bizarre sightings near air bases in Morocco. Woo was then rendered unconscious by a spiked drink. When he awoke, Woo found himself in an apartment adorned with communications from Red China. He noticed those communiques were written in badly rendered Cantonese. Suddenly, FBI agents flooded the apartment to arrest Woo for treason. Fortunately, Woo was rescued by Nightshade, the resident hero of Keystone City. Spirited away to the night gallery, Nightshade spoke of similar incidents involving black FBI agents. Before their arrests, the agents whispered of curious goings-on at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Sneaking onto the base, the duo discovered an actual flying saucer. Eavesdropping on technicians, the heroes found Robert Grayson, a human raised by Uranians, being held captive. The military believed he was one of those human-looking aliens like in the movies and so were preparing to dissect him. Freed, Grayson was reunited with his remote control headband. Upon boarding the saucer, the trio escaped Air Force pursuit. After thanking his rescuers, Grayson inquired if Woo, based on his features, was associated with the visitors who inspected his craft. Knowing the naive Grayson meant no disrespect, Woo asked what the visitors said. Grayson ordered the saucer to display its memory of the visitors. During a phone call, they spoke English to the military personnel and another language. That language was unknown to Woo. However, having served in Korea alongside a Filipino-American, Nightshade identified the language as Tagalog. The saucer promptly sped toward the Philippines. While surveilling Subic Bay Naval Base, a gold submarine surfaced. Suddenly, exotic warriors emerged from the water to infiltrate the sub and extricate captives. When the military opened fire, the saucer shielded the warriors. One warrior, a regally adorned woman, beckoned the saucer to follow her. Submerging, the saucer docked at Nan Madol, the underwater city of the Magindara. The regally adorned woman then boarded. Her name was Queen Morella. She had been searching the region for a lost surveillance patrol. Before their capture, the patrol communicated that an extra-national party was consulting with the US military on Oolong Island. Approaching Oolong Island, the saucer was shot down by an EMP and crashed into the ocean. The heroes were then captured by M-model robots. They were then interrogated by the cybernetic horror Chang Tzu. Nearby, while secretly planting flowers on an unmarked grave, a lone M-model picked up a signal from Grayson's saucer. The two then communicated and shared data. Together, they hatched an escape plot so sneaky, so intricate that M11 just ran through some walls and grabbed everyone. And then it ran back and grabbed everyone's stuff too. While aloft, M11 fended off the other M-model's attempt to rend the saucer apart. Emerging from healing chambers, the heroes wondered why the robot freed them. Grayson explained that the saucer vouched for the mechanical man. M11 then played audio from its memory banks. The recording was of an indoctrination. In it, Woo heard the name Cyrus Vero, a missing scientist suspected of defecting to Red China. Morella commanded M11 to boost the volume. With her sensitive ears, the Queen overheard a woman singing in Calabrian Greek, a siren. Nightshade wondered. Framed FBI agents, an extra-national party bossing around the US military, a robot factory on a remote island, and now a siren, all to what end? Once in Calabria, surveillance uncovered a private resort with a submarine pen. Posing as a tourist, Woo watched as new arrivals met a citrine-haired hostess guarded by an Asian woman. Once at the submarine, Morella hydrokinetically snatched the citrine-haired woman. However, Morella heard a voice in her head that compelled her to let go. Nightshade then dropped from the arriving saucer to fire a tranquilizer dart into the bodyguard's neck, silencing the voice in Morella's head. As security evacuated the hypnotized guests and took aim at the saucer, M11 provided cover fire for Morella, Nightshade, and Wu to board with the siren. Hiding among the clouds, the siren's pretty little head cleared in time for interrogation. As M11 aimed at her head, the siren revealed her name was Venus. She had been brainwashed by Lady Lotus for over 2 years. The explanation did nothing to sway Morella, whose people were historically wary of sirens. Calming his compatriots, Wu compelled Venus to tell her story. Although a siren, Venus preferred to think of herself as a muse. She often comforted writers, artists, and sculptors between Calabria and the Barbary coast, until lured inland by Lady Lotus. She recalled being circulated among sites around the globe to keep various geniuses hypnotized. The first site was somewhere in the Atlas Mountains. Wu told Grayson to then set course to Morocco. What happened next was witnessing a supply caravan being attacked by a talking gorilla. Still with me? And then that gorilla was attacked by a Chinese monkey prince. The group had stumbled upon Atlas, a secret society determined to retake mainland China. Henry Jonathan Pym was to Tyler Chemo Robotics what Willy Loman was to traveling sales. Tasked with miniaturizing hive cores within neuromorphic chips, Pym fixated on theoretical Kerbans as a solution. Dismissed as harebrained Hank, Pym's exploratory research was regarded as commercially inapplicable. Hank so wanted to be a giant in his discipline. He desired to be every bit as famous as his explorer ancestor, Arthur Gordon Pym. Disheartened, Pym resigned himself to being just another worker ant in a monotonous colony. The ensuing psychotic break resulted in subsequent dismissal from TCR. Hank then spent his recovery indulging his childhood fondness for insects. Enter fashion mogul Janet Van Dyne. Her father, Vernon Van Dyne, perished during the Apocalypse War while recovering a father box. Pym observed that Kerbans allowed for the miniaturization of its AI architecture. Vindicated, the elated Hank's mind was abuzz with all manner of potential applications. But how best to demonstrate such revolutionary utility? Turns out, Janet proved herself to be even more harebrained than Hank. Why not demonstrate the practical applications of Pym particles through superheroism? Furthermore, why not claim the discovery by rebranding the Kerbans as Pym particles? All his life, Hank likened himself to a boring, subservient ant, enslaved to pointless busy work. Now, he desired to mimic the colourful assertiveness of a stinging yellow jacket. And so, Advanced Idea Mechanics began as the first superhero startup. All AIM required was an angel investor. One who understood Hank Pym's mind was a hive buzzing with all manner of ideas. There was a time when the world didn't know what a superhero was. 1942. Axis Übermensch posed an existential threat. Allied morale suffered a nosedive. America was now competing on 2 unprecedented fronts, nuclear and superhuman. President Roosevelt proposed a new method for fighting the latter: celebrity super soldiers, the All-Star Squadron. The classified task fell to Robert K. Merton, who had to upend and redefine every sociological theory regarding propaganda and deviance. Merton utilized focus groups to coin the very term superhero. In effect, Merton defined the very concept and subculture of superheroes. The Bureau of Applied Research selected candidates. From there, Merton's focus groups chose the members. Afterward, editors from David McKay Publications would design a public image and comic book propaganda for each member. The Office of War Information would then write the comics for troop readership. The first All-Star Squadron consisted of Iron Munro, Fury, Neptune, Flying Fox, Element Woman, and the Ray. Arnell's father, Hugo Munro, conditioned his daughter under the same high-gravity conditions as Tom Strong, except her pregnant mother ingested Goloka. Dubbed Iron Munro, Arnell was chosen to reflect Rosie the Riveter. Lyta Creusa was an Amazonian princess selected to invoke classical heroism. Neptune was chosen for his descent from legendary explorer Arthur Pym. Flying Fox was a detective who claimed descent from the extinct Quantauka people. Element Woman was to boost allyship with China. and the Ray was from the future who was depicted in comics as a subservient African American. He was really a Tamil American. 1952. During the Cold War, a second all-star squadron was assembled to combat domestic terrorism and communist sabotage. This time, the heroes posed as civically minded, duly deputized vigilantes. The team comprised those whose gimmicks reflected the popular culture of the time. Blue Diamond was an amnesiac found wandering the Antarctic coast. Unbeknownst, he had been a monk of House Diamond on Gemworld. David Mitchell survived human experimentation wrought by the US government. He had been vibrationally displaced, phasing in and out of both the speed and the still force. The experience left him spinning in circles as the human top. Sun Girl was a Ranian lawwoman who crash-landed on Earth after encountering a space monster. Afterward, she assumed the identity of meter-maid Mary Mitchell. Among her many quarries were invasive Zarkons, Jovians, and the Cube Men of Otan. Black Marvel was Dan Lyons of the Nitsitapi people and once confessed to wearing a haunted costume. The costume had previously been worn by Omar Mosley, a hero murdered by the Order of the Hood. Enya Wazo was from Earth 2's equivalent of Bigtzel. Rather than being mutants, Earth 2's Bigtzelians evolved on their planet, a vibrationally displaced world. Attuned more to the solid world, Enya took the name Louise Grant and became secretary to the incompetent detective, Mark Mason. When Mason bumbled a case, Enya would employ her powers and genius as the Blonde Phantom. Little was known of the warrior Zara Jan. She claimed to have been of the Cuchulan clan of Skartaris. Tearfully, she wanted to return to her daughter. Matthew Masters had once been a notorious outlaw. Upon being shot in the face, Masters awoke amnesiac and was somehow able to wield dark force. Mysterious government agents doctored evidence that Masters had once been a superhero known as the Black Rider. Madeline Joyce was heiress to the Bennett radio fortune. Fun fact, she had been adopted. Another fun fact, she was from Earth 2's Krypton. During a team-up with the Justice Guild, she fell for Robert Frank, aka The Streak. However, they would divorce due to Robert's, politics. Foreign correspondent Mark Todd witnessed Allied war crimes during World War II. Hunted by British and Chinese forces, Todd took refuge in a cave. There he beheld an underworld city powered by the Golden Lantern of Justice. The residents were the Skullmen, a strange race with burning skulls for heads. Judging Todd worthy, the Skullmonks empowered Todd to survive his attackers and secure the film for publication. But there was a fine line between justice and vengeance that Todd tragically crossed during the Korean War. And so, he came to regard himself not as a spirit of justice, but rather as a spirit of vengeance. Finally, Thomas Halloway was a psychiatrist whose weirdest patient held superhero delusions. Upon that patient's suspicious death, Halloway was bequeathed twin guns. The guns never ran out of ammo, and its bullets would curve mid-air. Using knowledge gleaned from being a son of a warden, Halloway avenged his patient. And the name of that patient? Newspaper mogul Lee Travis. 6 years ago, nations suspended feuds, abuses, and petty politics to unite against Steppenwolf's invasion. But one world united was still one world alone. Yet the world's best and brightest super beings attempted to more than make up for it. Abigail Hunkle was a single mum who wrestled under the ring name Ma Hunkle. While throwing her daughter clear of a parademon swarm, Hunkle was herself thrown into a parademon processor. Rescued mid-processing, Hunkle's body was rendered non-viable. Using Dr. Robert Crane's cybernetic technology, Hunkle's central nervous system was transferred into an experimental synthezoid endowed with full sensation, the Red Tornado. Mia Shimada was a Nisei who got to live her father's shattered dreams of surfing superstardom. When a rogue wave endangered a fellow Wahine, Mia's hydrokinesis manifested to rescue her. The manifestation caused her ban from competitive surfing. When an apocalyptian marine unit, known as the Deep Six, approached shore, Mia, out for a morning surf, single-handedly repelled them. She then promptly enlisted in the World Army's elite All-Star Squadron. During the Apocalypse War, cyberneticist Robert Crane established Project M. His goal was to salvage those existentially adaptable to robotic prosthetics. Crane reverse-engineered the lifelike physiology of the project's namesake to sustain the human brain. When Dr. Bedlam came to recover that namesake, Crane was tortured to near death. His brain was salvaged by co-director Chuck Grayson, and so Crane lived again as Robot Man. Celia Forrestal was the finest Argo harness pilot in the World Army. Secretly, she originated from the Utopian Parallel, a region of the God Sphere. While falling into the mortal sphere, Celia was separated from her wife and daughter. Longing for a family reunion, Celia set records for parademon kill counts during the Apocalypse War. Her current whereabouts are unknown. Terry Sloan was a polymath, one part MacGyver, one part Bruce Lee. Rather than being recruited, he auditioned for the World Army. Commander Khan feared Sloan was the most dangerous man on Earth. That fear came true when Sloan reduced Moscow to an uninhabitable wasteland. Historian Nathan Haywood was more of an armchair soldier. Caught in a crossfire, his body was rendered to Project M. He was a man barely alive. With his limbs unsalvageable, Haywood was rebuilt better than he was before. Better, stronger, faster. Armed with a photon shield, Haywood became the bionic patriot known as Citizen Steel. Elizabeth Barstow was a prospector of creation metals. To secure her mines from claim jumper Cave Carson, Barstow employed the mercenary cult Scorpio. During the Apocalypse War, Scorpio was revealed to be a dark side cult. Taken captive with Carson, Barstow was forced to refine the metals into weapons. Sneakily, Barstow forged an armor, in a cave, from a box of scrap metal. Endowed with vibranium, adamantium, and nth metal, Barstow slayed parademons and maimed furies. She particularly humiliated Lashina, the fury who would become her chief rival. Fleeing captivity, Barstow joined the All-Star Squadron as the Silver Scorpion. Catalina Flores was an insurance investigator enthused by the Tarantula novels written by John Law. Catalina met the author when he was accused of heisting a rare Nathaniel Dusk poster. The duo played an erotically charged game of spider and fly until Law was finally caught in Catalina's web. However, Law outsmarted her by exposing his heist as a hoax. Disappearing into retirement, Law saw that Catalina inherited the tools of his trade. When the Apocalypse War ignited, Catalina joined the World Army's espionage and sabotage unit. Actor Simon Trent was filming on location when parademons swarmed the set. During the war, Trent translated the skills he learned filming his series into being an actual hero. He became the terror who haunted the night, the revenant at the scene of the crime, the grey ghost. John Henry wielded the electricity-absorbing hammer of his folkloric namesake. Incognito, he was Viking, the new god of technology, and his hammer was a disguised mother box. Arcus hailed from Smokeworld, a region of Svartalfheim. As the glow-in-the-dark vision, Arcus utilized his flying, intangibility, and invisibility to lead the All-Star Squadron. He had been a lantern keeper until Malekith the Accursed swiped the lanterns to conquer Svartalfheim. When thwarted, Malekith scattered the lanterns across the universe of Earth 2. Tragically, the last incarnation of the All-Star Squadron was lost when Terry Sloan ignited that fire pit in Moscow. Did Sloan perish as well? We'll see. Amazonia had been called Paradise. Now it is known as Collateral Damage. The Olympians ignored prayers, offerings, and sacrifices. Aphrodite recanted her spell of invisibility. Athena cursed her blessing of immortality. The scorched earth, the weeping sky. Stones that stood for over 12,000 years were reduced to rubble, to dust. An empire in miniature lost for all time. A civilization that was. A ruination that is. Nevermore. Why damn the Amazons so? Well, mortals were expendable. Olympians were not. They sailed on shimmering waves and in quiet darkness. They embraced lonely sailors and imparted comfort. And then they slit throats, striping black water with red. The Amazons' origin is shrouded in the mists of history. Some say they began as women who slaughtered their males to claim freedom. Others say they were what remained of a tribe deemed so wretched that none were taken by an enemy who had executed their men. Pseudo-historian David Graves comments they may have been the daughters of Ares. Whatever their origins, here is what we do know based on interactions. The earliest known queen was Marina, who sacked Atlantis to collect payment for repelling an immortal tribe. When the Holocene epoch started, Queen Ortrera slaughtered the Serpent Men and confiscated the eldritch Serpent Crown. Impressed, R is offered to father Ortrera's child on the river Tanais. Eventually, the Amazons settled in Anatolia and began worshipping the Olympians. Nowadays, the Amazons are refugees and vagabonds following the apocalypse war that razed Amazonia. Some are mercenaries, others teachers. Many are enlisted in the World Army. As for the current queen, Hippolyta rules only an embassy for stateless people. Following the apocalypse war, thriving cities became ghost towns. Those who had achieved the American dream lost everything. Enter venture philanthropist Jordan Markent. His American Dream Foundation successfully resurrected dozens of communities. So popular is Markent that his beneficiaries frequently demand a presidential run. However, he would rather share an American dream of his own and share it with cold precision.